As we can see here, it took me 1 minute and 40 seconds to render out this little default cube. It's just a single frame, so a single frame took us 1 minute and 40 seconds, which by my part is really super slow. You can't render a single frame for 1 minute and 40 seconds. What if we're about to render a frame of like 250? By my calculation, it's going to take a lot of time to do that. So in this tutorial, I'll be showing you how you can render pictures, or let's just say animations, really fast, because a collection of frame result to an animation. If frame one plays, frame 2 plays, then Blender is just gonna join it together. It's going to give you an animation. I'll also show you how you could render out an animation, because I'll be making a little scene or a little animation that you could copy and render it out as your own. Maybe if you follow this tutorial, I'll also show you how you can make super awesome animation. Let's enjoy. Also, please make sure you subscribe to this channel. It really helps me a lot for more free videos like this. So let's get into the tutorial. So to start up with this tutorial, we're just gonna delete the whole scene by clicking Ctrl N, then general file, then we click on don't save to just, then we have this scene in our Blender. We have the camera, we have the light, and we have of course the default cube. So if we go to the camera view and zoom in a little bit, then we go to this render properties, change the render engine from Eevee to Cycles. Actually, Eevee was faster, depends on your laptop. If you're using a really slow laptop, I just recommend you go for Cycles. If you don't want your laptop to have a coma, I suggest you go for Cycles. As for me, I'll just be showing you how to use Cycles, not because I have a slow laptop, but for the sake of others that maybe have a slow laptop. So if we're in this sort of like camera icon here, there are a lot of settings we have to change to make this animation really fast. Actually, to make this picture render really fast. First thing we have to do is to go to this edit, then go to preferences. On your system, we change the Cycles render devices from none to CUDA. It helps a lot. As for me here, it says no compatible GPUs found for Cycles, require NVIDIA GPU with compute capability 3.0. That is just trying to say that my laptop is not compatible with this CUDA render engine. So I think I'm going to move to optics. Now you can see that that's changed. So we cancel that, change the device from CPU to GPU computer. It's going to make it a lot more faster. Then change the max samples from 4096. That's a whole lot of samples to render for each pixel. So I'm just going to change that from 4096 to, maybe we could change it to something like 300 to make the animation a lot faster. Depends on your laptop. If you want, you could just leave it at 1000. Your animation or your rendering is going to be faster, but for my laptop, I think I'm just going to go with 500 max. That's as far as we can push this stuff. Then in the viewport, click on the noise, or just leave the noise for now. Go to the world properties, just increase that for just a lighting up scene. That doesn't make animation any faster. Just then, as for the camera, we go to the output properties. Who have not had a camera slow rendering, so we're just gonna change the X and Y resolution to something maybe like 720 for each. 720. That's gonna slim this camera, like it's gonna make it a lot more closer to the cube. Then just scale the cube up to put it in the view by pressing S to scale. Then With that done, just click on the rendered view. You could see this little scene here. Then we can change the cube, the color of the cube, to something like blue, as you saw. You could use any color. You could use green, you could use red, you could use light blue, any color of your choice. I think I'm going to go with blue. I don't know why, for some reason I like blue. Then with all that said, we go to render and click render image. Or if you don't want to do that, you could just go to render. You could see the shortcut for that. Sorry, you could see the shortcut to that, F12. So on your keyboard, we're just gonna click F12. So yeah, now we have this cube rendered out as a picture, and as you can see here, it's in frame 1. And if you can look at the time, it took us 38 seconds to render out a frame, which by my part is a lot of improvement. So for us to know how many seconds it's going to take us to render out 240 frames, or let's say 200, depending on how many frames you want or how long you want your animation to be. So I think the highest in Blender is 250 frames. It's not actually the highest, but that's just what is the highest by default. You can just click the end value to like 1000. You could change the end value to anything you want. So as for the default, which is 250 frames, let's see how many seconds it's going to take us to render out 250 frames. So if you click on calculator, click on calculator app. If you click on the calculator app, then we type 38 times 250. It gives us 9,500 seconds. So 9,500 seconds to render out 250 frames, which is a lot of improvement. So I also promised you guys I'm going to teach how you could render out an animation. But to render out an animation is needed. So the kind of animation we'll just be making here, or the kind of video we'll be making here, is this little default cube changing different kind of colors like red, green, blue. I know you've heard of the RGB standard stuff like that. So it's just gonna be RGB, like red, green, blue. You can also change to other colors like purple, light blue, like sky blue, yellow, stuff like that. So let's get into the tutorial. The animation part. So to make this little default cube change to different kind of colors, we're gonna be doing what I call the keyframing stuff. I'm just gonna give this head value to something like, let's say 50 frames. We're not gonna be using much. We're gonna be using something called keyframing. So by clicking on this cube, to know if an object is clicked on, you could go here, you could see this blue highlighted area, or you could just see this yellow marked stuff around the cube. That's it. So let's start animating the color. We could drag up this timeline a little bit to see what we're working with more clearer. Then click on the cube, go to the material properties. Now that the base color is on blue, you click I to insert keyframe, or you could just right click and insert keyframe. Then go to frame, let's say frame 10, then change the color to green, insert keyframe. Frame 30, red, insert keyframe. By clicking I, you could insert keyframe, or you could just be wasting your time by right clicking and inserting keyframe. But as for me, I just prefer using the I. So, shortcut to success. Obviously there's no shortcut to success, but there's shortcut to get your work fast in Blender. maybe some other apps, but I don't know. Then go to frame 50. Could probably change it to purple, or I don't know, maybe I could just make it white again, or nope, let's change it to purple. That will make a lot more sense. And it starts keyframe. So if you play this red, you see that? That is really nice. So to render out an animation, this simple scene we have here, to render it out, we could just go to render and render animation, but with that, obviously Blender have some certain settings. You have to give some certain stuff to make it right. So we could click this output properties, resolution X and Y 720, correct. We don't want slow renders. Then change the frame start to 0, end to 50, because that's where the keyframing, this yellow like diamond stuff stop. Then if you want your animation to be a lot slower, you could stretch the time stretching. If you stretch the time to 50, you will notice the timeline. You will notice this line separated from this stuff. That shows that it's stretching the already made keyframe, but I'm not going to be time stretching here. Then you could save this file wherever you want. I'm just going to go to desktop and save this as color changer. You could save it that you could use anything you want to save. You could use any name, depends on your choice. Then change the file format from PNG to FFmpeg video. Then click on the encoding tab, change the container from Matroska to MPEG-4. Then change the output quality to high for some high quality renders. But if you want some low quality renders, you have it here. Depends on what your laptop can carry. Obviously, it's obvious by the name. Then with all that setups done, you just click render and render. So now let's watch the final render. Thank you for watching this video. If you found my content useful, do well to smash the like button and also subscribe to this channel. As far as it goes, my channel has 66 views. I started this channel last week. Please help in the growth of this channel. It really helps me a lot. And also you could also comment on how I can make my channel better or make my content good to suit your convenience while watching my video. Thanks. And I also forgot to tell you that you could also turn on the notification bell to get notified if I upload new videos on my YouTube channel. Thanks for watching my content. Till next time. Bye.